The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own. They may not be the opinions of this network, their groups, or other organizations they may be involved with.
Ganja my meditation, ganja my brain. Ganja we take away my stress and strain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress and pain. Ganja in my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me essence and they make me feel pure. And the way the quality we be bring it on door. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking marijuana around you. Ganja in me daily, ganja me currency. Ganja is the currency and daily pay. Give me the revelation, it's not to get too much when it's been growing. So long, that's why we call it.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ganja News Update for this Monday, July the 15th, 2024, episode 87 here on NOK Network, the video news podcast focused on cannabis news being reported in mainstream media. I'm joined by my amazing joint host, Tarra Simpson. Hello, Tarra, and how are you?
Oh, Ron, I am so vibing still from this weekend, man.
Great.
What a wicked weekend we had. Shout out to Kim and Steve and Kiss for putting on the most amazing event. We went to the Stoner Cup games, and let me tell you, what a wicked weekend. We had so much fun. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, where do you start? We could go on for the whole show talking about it. We only got about 5 minutes to do it though. But so yeah, where do you start? Wow.
You started arriving, I guess, Friday, which was, Psychedelic Friday, which lots of people partook in, and the vibes were just incredible. Like, especially when it got dark. I mean, those videos that we took of the main tent from the bonfire area was just wicked cool.
The lights flashing,
and the DJ, and like everyone was just like getting to know new people who were there, and some of us all knew each other. So it was just a great atmosphere. Everyone had a blast. Skippy, of course, he's a regular attendee. Shout out to Skippy and his wife.
Skippy is the 710 Stoner Games mascot. The 710 Stoner Games would not be the 710 Stoner Games without Skippy being there, right?
Absolutely. Life of the party, that guy, man.
Right. Did you see his shirt? Did you see his shirt? I think it was Saturday
night. Yes, he had on that trippy ass shirt, which with me being a little bit on the shroomies was pretty cool. Yeah. I tripped a few people up with my my pink flowery capris because I changed partway through the evening. Yeah. And I guess as it got dark, it looked like I was only wearing half pants. So people were like, because they're kind of like a light skin colored pink with some flower. It was tripping people out. Apparently, that was people just I was actually wearing actual pants and didn't have some weird like. I don't know. But what a wicked weekend! And shout out to Nico and his crew. That was wicked Saturday night.
Wow. Yeah. The band just hit it on the nail on the head with everything. It was wicked awesome. I've got some awesome video footage. I think Kim's going to be amazed to see it and shit. So I was vibing to it when you popped in studio.
I know. That's cool. Great band, great DJing. Food. I mean, if you didn't eat, that was on you.
Yeah.
There was so much food. It was incredible.
It was
the
wild.
fruit salads and the veggie trays between the intermissions to the, pulled pork and burgers and dogs and all sorts of salads. I mean, you couldn't not eat. If you didn't eat, it was because you were too high.
Right. And we'll close off with this one last bit here before we go to our stories. Chickens.
The fucking chickens, man. The commitment level to those chickens and participating in the games was just cool.
Right.
Absolutely.
I
that
kind
was not
of
an easy task in that heat.
I
Especially.
know.
I have never in my life seen chickens on bucket stilts either. That was the first.
I know. I think they did really well. I think they did really well considering how does a chicken walk on buckets?
Right? They did it. There were a few times though. I've got a video I'll upload later where chicken down.
That's cool. I kind of have heard through the grapevine maybe that there's kind of maybe a chicken army building up.
I believe I heard something about that as well. So we'll have to see next year.
Yeah, it might be Team Chicken.
It very well could be.
Okay, Team Chicken. Is there something else? Oh fuck! You know what we need to do? Team T-Rex. That's the Team Chickens.
Could you imagine? It could happen. You never know.
We have to make it happen. We have to make it happen.
Games.
It's gonna happen. Team Chicken against T-Rex. I'll be a T-Rex.
There you go. See, you never know what can happen in Corner Cup games.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
So, anyways, we need to get to our show. So, I guess now for our top stories in cannabis news. Here we go. We're gonna bring this in here. We've got it already brings it to that there. So there we go. We're going to from Alberta here. Global news. This story here is Alberta dispensary. Oh, and by the way, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get through reading the news because I don't have much of a voice. I was networking so much throughout the whole weekend. So.
I know. Mine's just starting to come back.
Mine keeps going and coming, so hopefully I don't stress it too much. But we're going to do this. Alberta, right? Alberta dispensary becomes first to sell cannabis at Edmonton Comedy Festival. This is by Aaron Sousa, posted on July the 11th, 2024, and there was an update made on July 12th. Comedy fans attending the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival from July 12th to the 14th, so this has already happened, will have the option of taking part in what's believed to be an Alberta first. Plant Life Cannabis, Alberta's largest independent cannabis dispensary, will be the first to sell products at the star-studded festival, which showcases some of the biggest names in comedy at Kinsman Park. Ian Scott, Vice President of Operations for Plant Life Cannabis, told 630 CHEDs this morning with Stacey Brotzel that staff will sell products out of a sea container set up in an area of the park called The Garden by Plant Life. The garden will feature products from brands like Papa's Herb and Box Hot, as well as Alberta brands like Zele, Next Friday, Leisure Club, and Token Naturals. The setup is similar to a beer garden, Scott said.
Wow, is that ever cool? Yeah. So you can come up and see us and purchase pre-rolls, edibles, and beverages. We take cash and card, and we have a little consumption area directly beside us as well. The use of cannabis products has increased and become socially acceptable since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau first decriminalized the substance in October 2018, allowing Canadians to purchase and possess up to 30 grams of cannabis in public. According to Statistics Canada, more than 1/3 of adults between age 18 and 24 years old and 25 to 44-year-olds reported using cannabis in 2023, compared to the 15% of adults aged 45 years and older. Historical data from October 2019 shows roughly 17% of Canadians aged 15 and older reported using cannabis in the 3 previous months, unchanged from 2018 before legalization. Scott said that the social acceptance is helping to reduce cannabis stigma. He also credits the recent red tape reduction measures introduced by the provincial governments that allow cannabis producers to sell directly to consumers on site and online. As the days go by and the years progressed, more and more, it's a fabric of Canada and it will be more accepted, he said.
Yeah. He believes without question that it won't be long before more festivals jump on board and view cannabis through the same lens as alcohol. It's a privilege to be in this industry. It's been here for 6 years, and I'm excited to see what 5 years, 10 years down the road looks like, he said. We're still in the infancy stages. That's number one. We are in infancy stages, but every day is getting more exciting, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And that's the end of that story there. So yeah. I do think you're going to see more and more festivals and shit have this happen as people realize that nothing bad's really going to happen, right?
Right. I mean, people forever have smoked cannabis at festivals and concerts and such. Even prior to legalization. I mean, you'd sneak off and smoke a joint over at the side, or, leave the concert area if it was outdoor a little bit and, go smoke one. Some people just smoke them anyways, right? Like, what are you going to do about it? You're at a festival, people smoke weed, and have for forever. But now it's become a thing where people can go and actually sit in a cannabis lounge area, not disturb maybe the non-consumers in the beer tent. And again, mixing alcohol and cannabis, in my opinion, is just silly. It's one or the other, for most people. I mean, some people can do both. I personally am not a big drinker. So for me, that's where I would be hanging out. I wouldn't be sitting with everyone who's drinking alcohol and maybe getting unpredictable. For me, that's just not a thing. So it's kind of cool that now they're designating areas for it. Even after legalization, for me, I went to a concert and you could not smoke cannabis on the premise, even though you were legally allowed to smoke cannabis anywhere a cigarette was allowed to be consumed. And I almost got kicked out of Veld for smoking weed, and I had a medical prescription. That's the only thing that saved my ass in the end, was having my medical cannabis license with me and explaining to them, like, listen, I'm consuming for medical purpose, not even consuming to get high. And I had all sorts of other party drugs offered to me here, so like, fuck right off. So it's cool that it's becoming more accepted at a festival as a, like, it's safe, it's, people can do it, and we'll keep it over here for everyone. Very cool.
Yeah, I think this might actually be might be the way in for cannabis consumption lounges for the public to become more acceptable and more of a thing. Because if it happens at these different festivals and like events where they're like closed door events, or like you have like age gated or whatever, you got to be have an admission or whatever, right? I think once they realize that, okay, this is not so bad, and actually this is what people want, then you're going to see that spill over into like a bar format type of thing. Like,
absolutely,
we got bars all over the place. Why do we not have places for people to go to consume cannabis?
Right. I mean, there's always been a few cannabis lounges throughout, even pre-legalization. However, that kind of went by the wayside during the apocalypse we had over the last few years. A lot of them shut down because, again, their revenue depends on people paying an entrance fee to come in and sit and consume their cannabis, or being able to hold events like comedy shows where people can consume. So hopefully we'll see more of those reopening and new ones coming, because that's what we want. I don't want to go sit in a bar and have to walk outside and smoke a joint and be around a substance I'm not thrilled about. I would rather be able to go sit in a lounge and be with like-minded people and enjoy my cannabis and watch a show or watch a band, or so hopefully we'll
have
see
a great
more.
time have a great time like we just did this weekend, right?
Absolutely.
Was there wasn't any issues with regards to weed there, with any aggression or anything like that?
Absolutely not.
It was nothing. It was in fact completely opposite.
Oh, absolutely. Comedy Central, man. Like, there wasn't a dull moment. We had so much fun.
Right. Yeah. All right. We gotta get back. We gotta get back to our stories here. So here we go.
And this one comes to us from Cambridge Today. And this one is
as soon as I bring it up, there we go.
Yeah. Is Cambridge cannabis stores upset as police ignore black market pot shops? So this comes actually out of my area of Ontario, Canada. Waterloo Regional Police are dropping the ball, says Cambridge legal pot shop owners. Stores are shutting down and leaving the business because the black market sales are not being treated as a priority. So this was written, I don't know when this was written, a day ago. Okay. A day ago. Joe McGinty is the author of this article. As unregulated cannabis stores continue to be allowed to do business in Cambridge, local pot shops are furious over the lack of enforcement. Corey Van Israel, owns True North Cannabis in Cambridge and has had enough. One of his 2 stores is on King Street in Preston, just down the road from Sovereign Tokes, a store that Van Israel claims is putting local shops out of business. We are legally operating business here, and our sales are down 25% because of places like this, said Van Israel. We can compare. How can we compete when their products are stronger and cheaper than ours? Well, that was part of what we said. For months, Van Israel has been petitioning Waterloo Regional Police to shut them down, but every time he gets met with the same answer: we're monitoring the situation. Despite a magic mushroom store, fun guys selling illegal psilocybin just down the street and continually getting raided by vigilant police over 10 times in the last 8 months, the illegal cannabis store remains untouched. I get mushrooms are different from cannabis, but illegal is still illegal. So why haven't they been raided, said Van Israel.
I just want to interject. I think we kind of did report on this specific story before. Like, it's not, this is the kind of,
this is kind of an update. Yeah.
It's an update. Yeah. So some of the stuff may be familiar. Some people may be familiar with what we reported on before, but there's been a little bit more information put into this one here. And this is an ongoing thing that's popping up more and more, where you're getting the
sovereign movement, with the indigenous
coming into the general public and saying, nope, we have every right to be here.
Absolutely.
He tells a similar story with the stores in other municipalities, as local police say they won't shut them down, and this is why, because it becomes a big hot talking point with different governments.
Absolutely.
I keep getting told that police won't go in there because they're waiting for case law from the province on Indigenous land issues, he said. There you go. WRPS did not respond to multiple requests for comment on the situation. Van Israel's issue with the illegal stores is that they are taking money away from businesses like his that have gotten a license, set up special bank accounts, and conform to strict regulations for staying in business. It's just completely unfair, and the fact that they, Bay police claim to want to clamp down on the illegal market is a lie because they are doing nothing. Well, they are doing something because patients are still getting busted. So that's wrong. But anyways, we'll carry on. That's another story. In Ontario, the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, AGCO, regulates all of the cannabis stores that are operating legally. Raymond Connert from the AGCO's communications team confirmed in an email to Cambridge today that Sovereign Toke is operating without a license and should be shut down. While AGCO's focus is on the safe, responsible, and lawful sale of cannabis, Connert said the AGCO does not have a compliance or enforcement role pertaining to stores selling cannabis without an AGCO license. I didn't know that. We certainly strongly encourage. So what is the purpose of them? Just purpose of processing licenses and shit?
I'm assuming.
There's no compliance.
They're like the inspectors, I guess, right?
I don't know.
Yes.
We strongly encourage Ontarians to shop at licensed cannabis retail stores to benefit from all the safeguards in place, including those related to verifiable quality of product and responsible sales, added Connert. The AGCO also adds that additional questions about enforcement should be directed to WRPS. The Ontario Solicitor General's office also confirmed that the store is operating illegally and cannabis shops off reservation lands must get approval from the First Nations Band Council. The only legal means of purchasing recreational cannabis off reserve is through the online cannabis store, OCS, or through retail stores licensed by the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, AGCO. Storefronts without a license obtained through the AGCO are operating illegally, said Brent Ross, spokesperson for Ontario Solicitor General Michael Kersner.
Yeah, so I know Kim and I have actually spoken to a lawyer who's involved in some of these Indigenous rights stores that are off reservation. And it is an actual thing, and it is being challenged constitutionally under different treaties and so on and so forth. So right now, the police really have their hands tied because there's things happening behind the scenes that, kind of tie their hands that way. So we'll have to see how it all plays out in every area of Canada, because again, it's pretty in depth as to do with treaty rights and different movements that way. Yeah.
So and that's why I wanted to bring this story up, even though we reported on this Sovereign Toke store before. We added information here from the law perspective of it, and you just said you and Kim have also interviewed the lawyer with regards to this very topic here. So we'll definitely be following this up.
So as the province cannot direct local police to enforce the law, Ross also noted that WRPS should be the next step for enforcement. In March of 2024, an OPP-led coalition of police forces, including our WRPS and the Toronto Police Services, were given $31 million over 3 years to crack down on these unregulated or gray market stores. Communications for TPS, Stephanie Sayer, said the police services has been working on closing these shops, but on a compliant basis only. Okay, so I'm not sure what that means.
Complaint basis.
Oh, complaint basis.
So someone can,
Be a little tired still. I can tell you that when a report is made to Toronto Police about an illegal dispensary, it is investigated, and decisions to proceed with charges is based on the findings of that investigation, wrote Sayer in an email to Cambridge Today. According to the employees of Sovereign Toke, police have yet to come in, raid them, or seize any products. If the cops came and shut us down, it would open up a can of worms they aren't ready for, said Cody Walker, an employee at Sovereign Toke. in an interview for a previous story in Cambridge Today. If they were to take us to court, it would be the first time the 6 Mile was tested. And if they lost, they would have to move everyone past the boundary. It would be a mess, he said. Walker said the cannabis shop is indigenously owned and operates on Indigenous land recognized by the Haldeman Tract Treaty. The agreement says 6 Mile, 9 kilometers on either side of the Grand River, is Six Nations land. So they must be located, obviously, in that boundary.
Yeah.
The unregulated stores are able to sell any product they want without the restrictions of the AGCO. This means their edible products can surpass the legal limit of 10 milligrams of THC per package. Some of the individual gummies at Silver and Toke have up to 400 milligrams of THC, with packages having 30 times the legal amount with 3,000 milligrams. This is something that public health would strongly recommend not consuming, as it could increase the risk of cannabis poisoning or greening out. We'll go with greening out. Poisoning is not really, you're not poisoning yourself. You're just too high. Eat something and go take a nap. You'll be okay. Regulated cannabis products may contain dangerously high amounts of THC and may be contaminated with other products, said Gina Alderman, Communications for Waterloo Regional Public Health. Alderman references the Canadian government's guidelines for cannabis use, noting that that consuming high amounts of THC, especially in first-timers, can lead to elevated risks of panic attacks, cognitive, psychomotor, and memory impairment, hallucinations, and impaired perception. Absolutely. Again, you can have way too much THC and have almost like a out-of-body brain-body disconnect. And I've experienced it myself as a first-time edible user many years ago. It happened. It absolutely happened, and it freaked me out. But again, education is key, right? These stores that are operating as Indigenous stores aren't necessarily saying, hey, here, just eat this and you'll be fine. They're educating their patients when they come in, and getting a feel for where their tolerance is and recommending products and giving them information about, hey, don't eat too much, right? Yeah. Something that's not happening at OCS stores. Right. I've never once heard the cashier say, be careful with this, start low and go slow. So that's, there is a difference. They're doing their due diligence. And I know that as someone who, regularly interacts with gray market people in that sense. So I think that, they're just trying to scare everyone. Dan Israel said that all of these organizations and governing bodies keep passing the buck, but it would ultimately stop at WRPS. Everyone is pointing the fingers, and it's up to the individual police departments and what they do. It's the Waterloo Regional Police that are dropping the ball and choosing not to do anything about it, he said. We're losing business over here because of this. Stores are shutting down and leaving the business because the black market sales are not being treated as a priority. All Van Israel wants to see is a level playing field, whether it is with fewer restrictions and cheaper prices by the AGCO or the province crackdown on illegal pot shops. The government is putting this system in place for the legal system, but let's run with the legal system. Why are we allowing blatantly obvious stores that are not legal to open up? It's unreal. Imagine if this was a beer store or liquor store. They would be shut down in a second, he said. Absolutely, they would. But again, it goes to do with treaty rights, and they are obviously sitting on land that is within that boundary. So go suck a lemon. Just saying, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it seems like this guy has got a little bit of a whiny attitude, but at the same time, he does. sometimes he does bring up a couple of important points, and he's
Absolutely.
talking about a level playing field. And hey, isn't that what we're looking for too? A level playing
All of
field.
us. Absolutely.
So he's saying either bring the restrictions down and prices down on his side, or crack down more on these other stores. Well,
Right.
we both know which is the best option there. Less restriction, lower prices. That way, everybody can be out there. There's market for everyone.
To see for legalization. We didn't want to see a cap on edibles. People should have the right to choose what works for them with proper information so that they know what they're doing with said edible, or, that was something that we as gray market consumers were very adamant about, that, like, if you don't do this, you're just going to fuck it up. So just saying, if they listen to the people and the patients, they'd be much further ahead already.
Yeah. So you know what? Again, I'm gonna say this here. Maybe this is the way the patient market might be able to break in and get in to be more accepted and be allowed to operate. Is
absolutely
through the not through, but as more and more of these sovereign type stores pop up everywhere. It's going to bring cause and effect to different changes in law and regulations as well.
Absolutely it will. Again, that's how we got legalization to happen, right? It was pushing the bar. So yeah, eventually they're going to have to listen.
Yep, exactly. I'm going to make an executive call here because time is ticking. But the two stories we did cover here so far, this one here was actually a really big one, I think, because it's a big thing that's happening all over the place right now. You get these stores popping up, and not just Ontario, it's other provinces too.
It's everywhere.
So I think we're going to skip the next story. We're going to go to break now. And then we'll come back for the other three stories. If we have time afterwards, then we'll cover the one that we're skipping here now. But the other one, and if we don't cover it, then we'll cover the one we skipped. We'll do that as in next week's run.
Perfect.
I don't want to try to squeeze it in and then we run over time. So we'll go to break now, folks. And lines. Where are we at here? Whose line is it? So it's my line. It's medication time.
That's right, folks. It's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we will return with more articles making mainstream media news. We'll be back.
That's right. We'll be back in just a few minutes here on Ganja News Update on NOK Network. Cheers, everyone.
NOK Network presents Ganja News Update. Join joint host Tarra Simpson and Ron McNabb as they bring you the global cannabis news update. Catch the Ganja News Reporters weekly on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as they cover cannabis news from around the globe in a 60-minute video news podcast. Stay up to date with Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on your webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and Rumble.
Psychedelic Tuesdays on NOK Network. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Psychedelic Reports. Ufa Alvarius is scouring the newswires for stories being reported in mainstream media on psychedelic rights and passing them on to Bobby Puppets and Tara Simpson so they can bring you, our listeners, in this 60-minute video news podcast. Join us for Tuesday Evening News, weekly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all your news and information in the world of psychedelic medicine. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including YouTube and Rumble.
Put it away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. The IWK 710 Daily Sesh is a virtual gathering where consumers meet up or a toke and some laughs at 7 p.m. Eastern nightly. Originally aired on Info with Kim's social media page, the IWK 710 Daily Sesh is now also podcasted on NOK Network. Rotating joint hosts bring you a variety of content during this 30-minute virtual smoke sesh. Take a break from the stresses in life and put it away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. Podcasted nightly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NOK Network.
Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at knocknetwork.com. Send us a message on our social media platforms or email us at info@noknetwork.com.
Hey, dudes and dudettes. Enjoy the show, man.
We're back from our medication session live here on Ganja News Updates here on NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories coming at you, making cannabis news. So let's get at it. So this next one here is coming to us from Marijuana Moment. German officials approve country's first marijuana social club since legalization took effect. And this was published July 8th, 2024, and by Kyle Yeager. We've covered quite a few articles from him. I kind of like reading a lot of his articles, so let's get at this. Germany's first marijuana social club has officially been approved just 1 week after the law allowing such permitting took effect. Lower Saxony Minister of Agriculture Miriam Stout announced that her office awarded the permit to social club Gander Kisi on Monday. It will allow the cooperative to begin cultivating marijuana for members, the latest development in the implementation of Germany's legalization law. Other permits are expected to follow the country in the coming week, follow across the country in the coming weeks. While certain states, such as Bavaria, have signaled that they will exercise their authority to impose restrictions and make it so permits will not be awarded until fall at earliest.
Wow. So Staudet, for her part, said this first permit issuance represents a historic step for consumer protection and controlled cannabis cultivation in Germany, according to a translation. It became legal in Germany for adults to possess and cultivate marijuana for personal use in April, but there's so far been no means of legally obtaining cannabis otherwise. The social clubs will be limited to having 500 members and selling up to 50 grams of marijuana per person each month. The cannabis social clubs are an important part of the fight against the black market. Carmen Weig, a lawmaker for the Social Democratic Party, said last week, according to a translation. Even if you don't have a particularly green thumb, a CSC is certainly a good alternative. Meanwhile, advocates and stakeholders are still awaiting the government's plan for the second pillar of law, which is expected to provide a broader commercial sales model.
Last month, German lawmakers also approved a series of changes to the country's marijuana legalization law, imposing restrictions related to impaired driving and giving states more authority to set limits on cannabis cultivation within their borders. The amendments were the result of an earlier agreement between the federal government and legislators that was made in order to avoid a months-long delay in the implementation of the legalization law. One of the changes gives states greater flexibility to set restrictions on cultivation at cooperatives that are now able to start dispensing cannabis to members. The regional governments will be able to impose limits on the size of the cooperative's canopies. A separate measure that federal lawmakers adopted last month sets a per se THC limit for impaired driving. The legislation, which has proved more controversial given a lack of scientific evidence supporting the efficacy of such policies, makes it so drivers would be considered impaired if they have more than 3.5 nanograms per milliliter of THC in their blood. The amendment also bans driving if a person has used both marijuana and alcohol, regardless of the amount. Meanwhile, Health Minister Karl Lauterbach, who has led the government's cannabis legalization efforts, told members of the Bundestag in December that we are currently examining the commercial sales plan as part of the second pillar. But with legalization in effect, there has been an increased pressure to expedite that process.
Right. The federal council representing individual states previously tried to block the now enacted legalization proposal last September, but ultimately failed. While Germany's federal cabinet approved the initial framework for a legalization measure in late 2022, the government also said it wanted to get the sign-off from the EU to ensure that implementing the reform wouldn't put them in violation of their international obligations. Officials took a step forward towards legalization in 2022, kicking off a series of hearings meant to help inform legislation to end prohibition in the country. Government officials from several countries, including the US, also met in Germany last November to discuss international marijuana policy issues as the host nation works to enact legalization. A group of German lawmakers, as well as Narcotics Drug Commissioner Burkhard Lehnert, separately visited the U.S. and toured California's cannabis businesses in 2022 to inform their country's approach to legalization. The visit came after top officials from Germany, Luxembourg, Malta, and the Netherlands held a first-of-its-kind meeting to discuss the plans and challenges associated with recreational marijuana legalization. Leaders of the coalition government said in 2021 that they had reached an agreement to end cannabis prohibition and enact regulations for legal industry, and they first previewed certain details of that plan in 2022. A novel international survey released in 2022 found majority support for legalization in several key European countries, including Germany.
Meanwhile, the United Nations UN drug control body recently reiterated that it considers legalizing marijuana for non-medical or scientific purposes a violation of international treaties. Though it also said it appreciates that Germany's government scaled back its cannabis plan ahead of the recent vote. Yeah, well, thank you very much, UN, for your considerate opinion of what Germany is doing in their own country.
Right. Wouldn't that put us in violation? Are we as Canadians part of the UN already? I'm not 100% sure on that, but at the end of the day, it's
we have, yeah. The UN doesn't really see us in complete violation. They're kind of okay because we have it federally legal for recreational and medical.
Gotcha.
But what the UN doesn't like is a patchwork of it's legal here, not legal here, and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, like the non-medical. They don't really have much of an issue with medical.
No, medical's medical.
Yeah, but in my opinion, what's the UN? Yeah. Why is the UN involved? It's a plant.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So we're moving over to our next story here. This one here is kind of a cool one. It's coming to us from where's it coming? Saints News Network. Ricky Williams, the Heisman winner and NFL legend, credits cannabis for helping his NFL career and new business venture. Discover how Ricky Williams credits cannabis for prolonging his NFL career and aiding stress management despite facing multiple suspensions. Read his insights and journey into the professional football world. This is by Kyle T. Mosley, and this is 11:06 a.m. I'm not sure if that was. I don't know if that can't be today. So I don't know.
On my copy here, it says July 14th of this year. So it was written just recently.
Okay, July 14th. Okay, so yeah, it's a recent story. So anyways, I like seeing more and more of how these sports individuals, especially ones who have been recognized with certain awards or trophies and that are coming forward and basically preaching the message, right?
Right. Despite possibly being in trouble,
right? Right. But cannabis is becoming more and more accepted in the sports world.
Yeah, it is.
Let's hope advertising will be allowed soon. for cannabis, because they're allowed to advertise alcohol, I believe, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay. Anyways, the National Football League suspended Ricky Williams. Wow. Okay, I didn't know this. The National Football League suspended Ricky Williams 5 times after he tested positive for what was once considered a performance-enhancing drug, cannabis. After years of advocating against prohibitive rules against cannabis, its benefits are now widely accepted in collegiate and professional sports. Williams believes decision makers are finally getting the message. Today, Ricky Williams is an advocate and entrepreneur who leverages his experience to reshape perceptions and marijuana and the cannabis industry. Since his retirement from professional sports, he's launched Heisman cannabis products and an astrology app, Lila. Despite missing 2 NFL seasons due to suspensions, Williams credits cannabis with extending his 11-year professional career. There's a quote, "Having cannabis in my life helped me appreciate, enjoy, and recover from the brutal game of professional football," Williams shared. You can carry on with the next paragraph there. I also need a drink.
So Ricky Williams times with the New Orleans Saints. In 1999, New Orleans Saint head coach Mike Ditka made headlines by trading multiple draft picks to select Ricky Williams 5th overall. The pressure immediately mounted as ESPN magazine suggested a controversial photo shoot of Williams at a wedding in a wedding dress with Dikta, exasperating the stress of being a top draft pick. Williams remarked on his time in New Orleans, I was stressed out and had no idea I was stressed out. Anyone who decides to be a college or professional football player thrives on stress. Cannabis's role in Williams managing stress and pain. Williams initially turned to cannabis after a breakup with a college girlfriend. Later, he used marijuana as a conduit to gain an understanding of himself, not just as an athlete, but as a person. We're not chess pieces. We are human beings, and to be so good at something requires a whole lot of stress. And the fact that we are using cannabis and it's helped us to create the product on the field that people love, that's something that's to be celebrated, not punishing the players.
Ricky Williams' journey into developing the Heisman brand. Transitioning from the field to business, Ricky Williams launched Heisman, which now has stores and distribution nationwide. Heisman is a cannabis lifestyle brand, Ricky explains. Back when I played for the Saints, cannabis wasn't legal in all 50 states. Now it's a part of my wellness routine, helping me manage stress and recover faster. Ricky's advocacy extends beyond his brand. He shares stories of how cannabis has positively impacted athletes' lives, including his former teammate, Kyle Turley. Cannabis saved his life, Ricky recalls. It's great for medicinal purposes, and now sports leagues are starting to understand that it's not a performance-enhancing substance. There's some pictures of him there with some of his product. Williams advocated for the cannabis industry long before becoming a business owner. One day while living in Austin, Kyle Turley invited Ricky to speak at a cannabis conference in Phoenix. Why don't you come out and tell your story, Turley said. Initially hesitant, Ricky quickly reconsidered. Two thoughts popped into my head. The first thought was, there are cannabis conferences at convention centers. Like, wow. Then the second thought was, what am I afraid of? Everybody knows that I smoke weed anyway. It was a wonderful decision because it was the first time that I sat in front of people in public and told my story. Ricky walked into the event center and was immediately greeted by approximately 20 people who shared their stories with him. I inspired them. That one event catalyzed Ricky Williams' journey into cannabis advocacy and business. And you know what? The event we just went to, the Stoner Games, wasn't that just like that?
Absolutely. So Heisman Cannabis, the lifestyle. So I tried to create Heisman as a brand that's really about my lifestyle. That lifestyle means doing everything that I can to be the best person that I can. For me, that includes Heisman Cannabis in my regimen. And so we're selling cannabis, but I think more importantly, we're selling a lifestyle. Ricky's on a mission to change the stigma around cannabis use. For so long, we weren't allowed to talk about it, he says. My attempt is to change all of that, to say we can talk about it in an empowering and uplifting way. He believes that open discussion about cannabis can help people use it responsibly and benefit from its positive effects. Ricky Williams is not just a former NFL star and legend, he is also a pioneer in the cannabis industry. As the NCAA recently struck down the inclusion of cannabis as a performance-enhancing drug, he believes he and others advocating for its benefits and changing perception affect the change. While this decision is a step in the right direction, it's a crucial one that we provide athletes, coaches, and the broader sports community with accurate information about cannabis. Williams expressed, under understanding both the benefits and the potential negative side effects, as well as promoting responsible consumption, is essential. His journey from a football field to the business world is a testament to his resilience and vision. Williams said at Heisman, our tagline is spark greatness, and that's what we're doing. Very cool. Very cool.
That is
and again, I don't believe it's like an enhancement as far as like people using like roids or something, right? If anything, it's helping to protect these players when they end up being hit so hard that they could experience a brain injury, because cannabis is a neuroprotectant. It can help them with the overwhelming stress they're under. I mean, they are under massive pressure to perform, which means training. It means discipline. That's got to be high-end stress. So good on him for trying to end that stigma with it being enhancement as far as it makes you win. If anything, it's just going to keep them healthy so they, don't end up with long-term issues. So I love it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I picked the story. It was such a cool one. And you can you can sense the passion behind there is what I felt.
Well, for him to take that many suspensions, knowing it would happen, I mean, you've got to really have a passion and a belief in what you're consuming to basically tell the NFL to, pound salt.
Right.
Suspend that, right? I love it.
Yeah. So you can take this one away if you wish.
So this last article here comes to us from cannabisbusiness.com. CRISPR gene editing could revolutionize cannabis breeding and crop production. A provisional patent application is the latest to apply the novel CRISPR technology to cannabis. The CRISPR-Cas9 technology used for the treatment of sickle cell anemia and reducing the bitterness in mustard leaves has the potential to revolutionize cannabis crops to integrating advanced genomic techniques into breeding solutions. And this comes from Kenneth Morrow, July 11th of this year. A revolutionary genetic technology is being used to treat human diseases is also showing dramatic potential to transform cannabis production. The foundation for the technology, called CRISPR, cluttered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, or the repetitive DNA sequence, or CRISPR-Cas9, CRISPR-associated protein 9, dates back to 1987 and is used as a prokaryotic acquired immune system to 2007. According to the National Institute of Health, CRISPR has recently been approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to treat 2 debilitating blood disorders. In December of 2023, the FDA approved its first treatments using the genome editing technology in a therapy. Can't pronounce that, to treat sickle cell disease. Then in January, the FDA approved a second use for Casvegi to treat beta thalassemia. Current research is exploring the potential for its use in treating a whole host of other diseases. It's also being explored for a variety of agricultural applications, and more importantly, it has made its way into the cannabis industry, with several patents being filed for various applications on the cannabis plant. Most recently, on May 16th, a provisional patent based on CRISPR called Rapid Agrobacterium Mediated Transformation and Gene Editing of Diverse Cannabisaceous Species was filed with the U.S. Patents and Trademark Office by MyFlora DNA, a biotechnology company focused on the gene improvements of plants.
Do
According to,
you know what CRISPR is?
I have a very limited understandanding of it. It's something I'm going to actually do some more research into now, though.
You should. You should.
Yeah.
I can't explain it very, very well, but Netflix had this was on a few years ago, so I doubt it's there anymore. And I can't remember what the name was, but it was it wasn't to do with CRISPR and cannabis, but it was CRISPR and injecting live AIDS virus into humans, and it's all done on the.
I know they're messing with a bunch of stuff with it.
It's all done on the black market, but it's all stuff that's integrated into our regular medical streams and shit.
Right.
And so CRISPR is something you definitely want to look into for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I'll let you finish off with that last paragraph there. So,
okay. According to MyFlora DNA, the technology promises to redefine the landscape of crop varietal development and genetic improvement of cannabis crops, accelerate the integration of advanced genomic techniques into breeding solutions, crop enhancement, and delivery of superior traits to the market at a faster speed, and potentially revolutionize cannabis production, enabling growers to develop strains with specific properties more quickly and effectively. And this would not only improve the quality of the final product, but it would also open new opportunities for research and development in the field of medicinal and recreational cannabis.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I fully believe all those statements because I would want to follow the money trail first.
Right.
And,
just saying.
Do your research, folks. That's all we're saying. That's all we're saying. CRISPR versus GMO technology. While exploring the potential of this application, the first question that came to mind for me is, what is the difference between CRISPR technology and genetically engineering, the process used to create genetically modified organisms, GMOs? As it was explained to me by the scientists at MyFlora DNA, genetic modification involves inserting a gene from one organism into another, or in other words, utilizing recombinant DNA techniques to isolate and move the DNA from one organism to impart a desired trait to another. For example, for improved crop performance and productivity, using the BT, Bacillus thuringiensis gene to confer resistance to plant pests. Another, possibly more outlandish example was an experiment that spliced a gene from a cold water flounder into a tomato DNA to make it more cold tolerant. The experiment, however, failed, so there are no fish genes in tomatoes. But it just goes to show you the shit that they're testing, right?
Right.
Right.
And for me, I love tomatoes, but I have a fish allergy, so that could be potentially problematic for me.
Well, one would have to wonder, now, if it did work, what would that look like?
Right.
Because that's what they're trying to do.
And what's the long-term outcome of consuming these things? We don't know.
It might provide
I'm not willing to be their guinea pig.
It might provide, exactly, for agricultural purposes, it might provide the results we want, like pest protection and other disease and virus protection and all that for the plants. But what's it doing to us?
We don't know.
We don't know.
That's a problem for me.
Yeah.
Let's not mess with
it's a
things.
Problem for me. Again, do your research, folks. Okay, so GMO modification involves adding a foreign gene to existing DNA, whereas CRISPR technology is an RNA-based system that involves gene editing, cutting a DNA sequence at a specific genetic location and deleting or inserting DNA sequences, which can change a single base pair of DNA, large pieces of chromosomes, or regulation of gene expression levels, according to the National Institutes of Health. It is referred to as a new genetic technology, NGT, and has been termed the genetic scissors. How is this shit even allowed to happen?
Right? Like,
In agriculture, common genetic modification that produces GMOs relies on the insertion of isolated genes or foreign DNA components into a plant genome. CRISPR gene editing, on the contrary, involves precise alteration of the existing genomes within a crop. CRISPR also is said to be much faster, more efficient, more advanced, and precise than genetic modification used to create GMOs. It enables modification of host genes using precise molecular scissors in combination with computation biology to design and develop novel genetics and traits, according to Ajith Anand, MyFlora DNA's Vice President of Research and Development. Traditional genetic modification to create a GMO involves adding a specific desired gene from a foreign host and host genetic material into host DNA in the hopes that it is accepted or inserted, which is sometimes confirmed by a fluorescent marker or plant selectable marker gene. These GMO technology is resource intensive, requiring many steps, including testing, optimizing, creating new products that may take up to 12 to 15 years for a product to be launched. Through CRISPR technology, it is possible to develop novel traits and genetics in less resource-intensive manner and in much shorter period than traditional breeding or genetic modification used to create GMOs. Wow, it's a lot of information there, but it just goes to show you the level of what they're trying to do.
Absolutely. That's crazy. So, for instance, where am I? Hang on. For instance, I have asked the geneticist at MyFlora for how they would modify a cannabis plant so that it produced elevated levels of anthocyanin, thus producing a purple plant bud. They explained that CRISPR technology could potentially be used to edit or eliminate the dominant genes that suppress the less dominant genes responsible for producing the genetic characteristics that produce anthocyanin purple color. Removing editing the dominant genes would result in the gene responsible for the purple color becoming the dominant gene. That's confusing. The same CRISPR concept could potentially apply to human eye color or any other genetic trait that one wishes to accentuate, amplify, or suppress, including sex, weight, height, disease, susceptibility, elimination of genetic defects, etc. The application of these genetic scissors has the potential to revolutionize cannabis in many respects. Besides the obvious, to elevate the levels of terpenes or cannabinoids, there are insurmountable potential benefits with major future implications. For instance, CRISPR technology is being used to identify and apply the genes responsible for making a variety of plants resistant to powdery mildew, for example, in grapes, and other diseases, such as genetically altering rice to be more resistant to a fungus called rice blast. It's also being used to develop other tools, such as the gene drive technology, pronounced Cleaver, created by Caltech researchers that can be specifically customized to plant species, potentially accidental gene editing in cross-pollination situations, as well as potentially used in weed control to make plants more heat tolerant, enabling plants to sustain the impacts of climate change or other disease resistance. The University of California, Davis is also currently researching the use of CRISPR in many crops, such as lettuce, tomatoes, rice, strawberries, even grapes, where the scientists are trying to develop grape cultivars that are heat and drought resistant. This technology will eventually have great impacts on reducing the impacts of climate change on the most agricultural crops. Wow.
Yeah. I'm not sure about this. I'm going to ask you a question. Would you smoke any cannabis that was produced that way?
Nope, just the same as I don't want any of my food to be messed with. Just leave it alone, guys. Leave it alone.
Because at this point, this is no longer, to me, that no longer is no longer a plant. It's like they're really screwing it up.
Yeah, let's not mess with things that are natural already. Like
right. So I'm going to just summarize the last little bit of this. I didn't realize that some of these were a little bit longer stories, but they're really cool stories, though.
Yeah.
And for everyone, I suggest you really look into this. If you're not sure what this is, look it up. With the CRISPR technology, all I have to say is most likely not good. It may provide the results.
Right? Like the long-term impacts of messing with our food system to make them more resistant, but how is that affecting our own biome of our bodies? Me, again, I'm leery. I'm not into the GMO thing either. Like, let's just leave shit alone.
Well, see, that's the thing. Produce a product that you can you get rid of the issues at the product level, then use to make these products that the people consume. The people consume the products, they get sick, and then they need the pharmaceuticals. You know what I mean?
Right. And the same with, okay, so now you're messing with the genetics so that, certain bugs can't feed on them. Well, what's that doing to our climate?
Right.
The bugs' food sources are taken away. You're messing with nature.
You change one thing, you change everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I do get where they're trying to go. They're trying to find solutions to certain things, but please, people, find different ways.
Yeah.
Because they're talking here about potential for the HLVD and pest resistance. So that's the HLVD is the hop. It's a viroid. It's a hop latent viroid. It's a plant virus that's been decimating crops, and you don't really realize it until it's too late.
Right.
So they're looking at it, and for pests control, like broad mites, russet mites, are also rapidly becoming a problem in the industry. Well, let's find out why they're becoming a problem in the industry, and look at that as a solution to find a balance rather than doing something.
There's natural pest control, right? You can get aphids, or there's all these different bugs that you can use to eat the bad bugs that won't harm your plants. There's all sorts of natural essential oils and things that you can apply to your plants to take care of those sorts of problems that won't affect the consumption of your cannabis, right? They're messing with nature. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Exactly. And I'm just looking, and I'm not going to read everything, all this, the rest of them. I'm just summarizing a couple of points because time has gone on. But people, if you're watching this, when you're watching on the replay, look into this and research it. This right here, this paragraph here, CRISPR is also the potential to speed up what's commonly called as phenohunting. The idea behind the myflora provisional patent application is to enable a breeder to select the exact traits they're breeding for or attempting to incorporate into the progeny. CRISPR could also facilitate the recreation of the original skunk cultivar of yesteryear by focusing on terpene and thiol levels and percentages. So what they're doing is they're eliminating the natural breeding process that the old school breeders have been using to get the results that you want, and doing it all this way. And then the next paragraph here starts talking about CRISPR, AI, and future applications.
Right.
This is scary shit, people.
Absolutely.
Not
questioning CRISPR and AI and GMO and things. Please do.
Leave our plants alone. I think that could be the name of a movement. Leave our plants alone.
Yes.
Get a whole song. What's that song that people in the weed community already use it as a. I'm not going to go on to the rest of the story because It was just a few.
Right.
That was
old
talking about AI.
school growers know what they're doing with genetic breeding the natural way, and you start messing with nature and editing things. I mean, what long-term impacts does that have on our health and future? So these are questions we need to ask for sure.
Exactly. And you know what? This is a perfect segue for me to close in before we go into our scripted closing. This is the exact reason why we have events like we just had, the Stoner Game, 710 Stoner Games and the Stoner Games Cup, is to get grassroots people together and keep that community going and support each other, but also use that community there to educate the greater community outside of us.
Absolutely. And having so many like-minded people.
Other, but that's not doing anyone for anyone outside.
No, and bringing so many like-minded people together and being able to network and explain and conversate and question and then go back to our communities and again spread that information and have those chats is so important.
Because if we don't keep this up and just give in to what's happening, you won't have natural cannabis around eventually.
No.
It may not be today. It may not be 5 years from now. It may not be 25 years from now. It could be 50 years from now. I don't think it would be that long, but it could be 50 years from now that there is no natural cannabis around.
Exactly. So
it's
again,
possible. It's possible. And with what they're talking about here, CRISPR, AI, and future applications, it could be even sooner than that.
Yeah. And again,
more reason to support your local
natural
legacy growers.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Like Tribal Gardens, right? Some amazing product. It's clean.
Right here.
It's amazing.
Tribal Gardens.
Yeah.
Winner of the Indica on the Stoner Games Cup.
Absolutely.
Bofficana cookies.
He's doing it right. And again, as a medical.
Awesome, Jason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
absolutely.
That was an awesome closing right there. I think we can go right into our script here, unless you had anything else to add.
No, that was all I had to add.
We did go on a little bit longer, folks, and we did skip a story, but you know what? It's always
next week on that.
It's always right. It's less work for me now. I only have to find 5 stories.
Right.
Great. So anyways, folks, thank you all for joining us here this week on Ganja News Update on NOK Network. And thanks for tuning in to our video news podcast on NOK Network's Rumble channel, several Facebook feeds, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and all such. And don't forget our website, noknetwork.com. And over to you, Tarra, for your line.
We certainly hope you've enjoyed our update today on mainstream media, as well as our banter and opinions of cannabis news and information from around the globe.
That's right. And many thanks to our sponsors for making this show possible. And thank you to my joint host, Tarra Simpson, and to you, my folks, our listeners, for joining us here each week on Education Mondays with Ganja News Update on NOK Network. And you know what? Talking about our sponsors, we're going to be having more sponsor ads up on the network coming up soon. Because I know the winners of the categories in the Stoner Games Cup will be getting a commercial spot on the network as well for a certain period of time. I don't know all the details, but folks, keep an eye out for all those. I'm sure you're going to see Tribal Gardens on there, and I am looking forward to seeing that ad. I can only imagine how cool that ad's going to be, but there's going to be a whole bunch.
Absolutely. So, fantastic.
Check them out, folks.
Products.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. So
anyways, good night, folks.
Good night.
Peace.
Ganja me meditation, ganja my brain. Ganja we take away my stress and strain. Ganja me meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress and pain. Ganja me meditation, ganja medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me essence and they make me feel pure. 100 ways to Cali, we be bring it on tour. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking another one around you. Ganja in the daily, ganja me currency. Ganja is the currency and daily pay. Give me the revelation, it's not to get too much credit, it's been growing, so long that's what we call it.